The situation in Iran remains tense and deeply uncertain as nationwide protests continue to challenge the authority of the Tehran regime. Former US President, US President Donald Trump has now claimed that Iran has halted executions of protesters, a statement that has not been independently verified and comes amidst conflicting signals from inside the country. According to Iranian authorities, more than 2,400 people have been killed since the unrest began, even as Tehran insists it has regained full control over the streets. Human rights groups, however, dispute these claims, alleging widespread crackdowns, arbitrary arrests, and continued use of force against civilians. Adding a geopolitical layer to the crisis, Donald Trump has also questioned whether exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavian truly mobilizes popular support, including among the Iranian diaspora and key international stakeholders like India. This raises fresh doubts over whether a unified opposition leadership capable of steering Iran through a transition actually exists. And beyond Iran's borders, the stakes are high. Any regime change in Tehran could reshape power equations across West and South Asia, potentially weakening India's strategic interest in the region, while creating openings for China and Pakistan to expand their influence, particularly through energy routes, trade corridors, and regional alliances. As protests persist and narratives clash, the central question remains unanswered. Is Iran on the brink of transformation, or is the region heading towards even deeper instability? We'll talk about this with our guest. Joining us on the show is Ambassador Veena Sikri, former diplomat. Major General Shashi Asthana, senior defense expert, former DG Infantry, is with us on the show as well. Mr. Sumit Peer, senior political commentator, also joins us on the broadcast. And last but not the least, Mr. John Rosamando, president of the Viking Research Associates and geopolitical analyst. He's joining us all the way from Washington, D.C., United States. All right, Sumit Peer, I'll begin with you. What do we believe here? Donald Trump says that executions are not happening. I find that hard to believe. It's Iran after all. You know, they thrive on fear. They thrive on invoking and imposing the Islamic law. And, you know, by many accounts, we are also learning, Sumit, that the death toll so far has crossed 10,000. What do you make of the situation? And do you think the volatility is going to benefit India, or there are repercussions which India should watch out for?
Vinny, thank you very much for having me on your show. A good question to begin with. Well, there's a lot of learning from Iran for us and for the entire world. The first and important thing is I will quote Shah's son Reza Pahlavi, who is on record saying at least more than 12,000 people are killed, that more than 10,000, in tens of thousands of people are injured. They will get no medical care. Their bodies of from an 8-year-old to an 80-year-old, you can find them in the black box. That is what has happened. IRGC, which is described as which is banned in a lot of countries as a terrorist organization, including US, America, and Australia and all. They opened fire on the people. They are supported Malaysia. Basil Malaysia has been instrumental in killing people. It's not the police of Iran. It's not the army of the Iran, because it's the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, which is like a personal militia of Khomeini. Now, to add to the misery, the Shia militias from Iraq have been called in. Around 3,000 men have entered Iran. And there is enough media claims and evidence to suggest that, and they have been into the massacre of people. The maximum deaths happened in last 2-3 days, according to Shah's son and a lot of media outlets. They are using AK-47s, they are using armed vehicles mounted with machine guns. They are using all kinds of ammunition to kill the people. Day before yesterday, Khomeini's fatwa was turned into a kind of a judicial degree wherein they said, you know, anybody who is protesting is against the God, is against the Prophet, is against the Islam and country, and he must be killed. Then this carnage, this genocide happened. And then yesterday, the so-called Chief Justice of Iran was saying that whomever we have caught, we have to execute them fast. We have to execute them now. We have to hang them now, because if we hang them after 3 months, there will not be much of impact. So they were making makeshift arrangements to hang few thousand people. Then Trump intervened and said, look, if you don't stop, we are coming. But the bigger problem is that there are a lot of intel agencies, a lot of sources which are suggesting that the attack will happen in 24 hours, because I think Khamenei has called all the red lines when he calls private Shia militia from Iraq to execute nihatte, you know, unarmed people of Iran. Again, Muslims killing Muslims, for that matter, Shias killing Shias. That is what is happening. And that proves how loyal these mullahs are and how loyal their iman to Islam is. Because when it comes to their power and all, everybody is going, you know, their own way and slaughtering people. The problem for the Trump has come as following. Saudi Arabia, Qatar and Turkey has kissed goodbye to Donald Trump. Say, you cannot use my soil, you cannot use my air, and you cannot use my basis on the Iran against attack, for attacking Iran. Because I'm a Muslim country, you cannot use myself to attack a Muslim country. Now the question is, what were their basis for? Ramayan ka part to wahan hona nahi tha. And after America has put trillions of dollars in the Middle East, this is what you get in return. When you need them the most, they literally show you goodbye. Thenga dikha diya. Go and do your work. And Tayyip Erdogan is a NATO partner. He's saying to another NATO member, like, you cannot attack, Khamenei from my soil. And knowing Khamenei has slaughtered a few thousand people and thousands are injured. That is a new paradigm. So you might have 19 bases in Middle East, but how many of them are usable? What are you doing now? And if you look at the reports today, Americans are pulling soldiers from their bases. It doesn't mean America doesn't have, options to attack. They have moved their carrier battle groups to Iraq. They are going to attack this way or other. Meanwhile, Hezbollah is threatening that will attack Israel and will attack Israel's nuclear installations if America attacks Iran. So all the excess of jihad or the resistance, which Khamenei used to call itself, they're all terrorists. They're basically to protect the Khamenei and the Islamic Revolution. IRGC has a mandate to protect Khamenei and his cronies. They are the people who have been shooting their fellow men, women and children in absolute cold blood because Khamenei told them to do so. That is the new reality we're seeing. You might have, I was very candid always, Vineet. In Islam, there are two kinds of agreements. You have an agreement with me, I'm saying I'm an Islamic country. When it comes to war, I can tear the agreement and put it in the dustbin. You will ask me what happened. I say, as per Islam, there are two kinds of treaties, peace treaties and war treaties. Peace treaties are not applicable as per Islamic law in the war. I have every right to tear them and put them to the nearest dustbin. That is exactly what is happening, and that is what we are seeing happening in the world. We are seeing Muslim NATO being formed. They are trying to shape that up. We are seeing Pakistan is going to be going around the things and doing all that. So we need, the attack is imminent. But Trump is asking his guys, give me a plan what I can do in Venezuela. His people are telling him, look, sir, his generals are telling me there's nothing called Venezuela. Iran has a big army, and the whole of IRGC and this Basel militia and other militias will be protecting Khamenei. So it is not going to be a walkover like Venezuela. They will have to put boots on the ground. There will be sweat and blood. They will have to lose men. There will be body bags coming, and the war might stretch. Are you prepared to take that hit or not? While as he doesn't trust Reza Pahlavi, says he's a nice guy, but does he have support on the ground? I don't want to create a vacuum. What we did in Iraq, and a Baghdadi will crop up and a new ISIS will crop up. So there are a lot of challenges which have to be managed. But I think Khamenei has crossed all possible red lines. You cannot get foreigners in your country, foreign militias, to slaughter your own people. That is what he has done. I think beyond that, nobody can hold any sympathies for him. But the tyranny is in the Islamic world. Not even one person, not even one monarchy is opposing Khamenei, though he has killed Muslims. They were saying all eyes on Gaza. If some people get killed in Gaza, all eyes on Gaza. Why not all eyes on Iran today? Why not all eyes on Khamenei today? When Jews kill 5 Muslims, it's a world problem. Hindus kill a Muslim, it becomes a problem of Khamenei. What are you doing in Kashmir? You're doing atrocities against Muslims. When the same person is allowing machine guns and AK-47s and militia to come in and slaughter his own countrymen, it is nobody's business, it is nobody's problem, and nobody is ready to utter a word. All 57 countries, Islamic countries in the world, are not uttering one word. That is the reality we have to wake up to.
All right, fair enough. Good points and a good opening to our debate. Ambassador Sikri, how are you looking at the situation? In fact, the Iranian government just put out a statement just a few hours ago to Donald Trump as well, saying that, there was a bullet that missed him a few months ago. This time, it's not going to. This is obviously not something Trump has responded to, but all's not well, as has been projected by the American president.
No, I think certainly it's not well. I think the situation is very, very difficult, and I think Sunilji has explained it very well. I think the question now is, there's a kind of a lull today, they are saying, because the American bases where the people were being withdrawn, they're being asked to go back, and the American aircraft which had been withdrawn from those bases are now also returning. So what does this mean? Is this lull the result of certain talks? Or is it that certain alternative routes are being thought of? It's true that these critical countries like Saudi Arabia and Turkey, they've are preventing the use of their airspace. Now, does that bring Pakistan into play? Because a few days ago, there was a lot of reporting that the border between Pakistan and Iran saw a lot of activity and sightings and landings and so on. So what is that? Is that going to be done? Is that the border that's going to come into use for the attack on Iran? So I think these questions are really significant. I think the other question is about Reza Pahlavi himself, whether the people of Iran, who are of course protesting against their own the Khomeini leadership, are willing to accept somebody like Reza Pahlavi, who's the son of the the monarch dictator who was seen as a dictator, who was deposed in 1979. So after all these decades, are they going to go back to the same dynasty, the same family? That's a big question among the younger people in Iran today. I think the foreign minister of Iran has had a discussion with Dr. Jaishankar, which is a good sign, positive sign. And Dr. Jaishankar has said that India is willing to do its bit to ensure stability and peace in Iran, and that this kind of killing, this kind of disturbances don't continue at all. But it is a dire situation. Nobody knows. I mean, the figures being mentioned about number of people killed, they range really from very small, sub 1,000 to 10, 12,000, and really it's a situation where there's a lot of uncertainty going on. But the challenge to the regime in Iran is very real, and there's also a thing that now I think in Iran, unlike in Venezuela, neither Russia nor China may keep quiet. I mean, in Venezuela's case, we saw that Russia kept quiet initially, and so did China, although subsequently Russia has claimed certain assets that they own in Venezuela concerning the oil industry. But in Iran's case, I think we're already seeing that, say, for example, the jammers that Russia has supplied and other material that Russia has supplied to Iran, and the shutting of the internet showed up that the Starlink people who had the Starlink links were shown up very clearly, and some of them have been taken in by the Iranian forces. And so this is, and China has made a statement more conciliatory, but China has also said they're willing to contribute to peace. But Russia is the one who's made a much stronger statement. So I think that it's very much in flux right now. I think the question of whether the attack will take place, I think taking place right from American soil, I think is difficult right now. Maybe it will be through Pakistan. It seems to be that's a much more likely route that will be taken. I think that all of us are following this. Government is following it very, very seriously, because it can be a major threat to stability in South Asia, in the Middle East. The whole region can go up in flames. I think certainly the OIC countries are rallying around Iran in some sense. Of course, somebody did put this in the context of what will happen to oil prices. And the estimate was that if you have a new regime and the sanctions are removed, will the oil prices fall below $40 a barrel? So this was considered as far too low for many countries, including USA. So I think that this is another factor that seems to be in play as to what will happen and the impact of that on oil prices, which is significant for global economy and for the economies of the oil-producing nations, including the USA.
Fair enough, ma'am. John, some of the neighbors for Iran have already gone on to say that they're not going to allow the American forces to use their countries and bases to attack Iran. Donald Trump had also said, in fact, he vowed that, even if there is one single execution of a protester, that the Americans would come in. None of that has happened. So perhaps the American president also realizes that this is not as easy as it was made out to be. What's happening in Iran does have, geopolitical overlays.
Well, let's put it this way. As far as like Qatar is concerned, Qatar and Iran have very close economic and political ties. So Qatar also has a lot of sway over President Trump. So the president, for whatever reason, listens to the Qataris and to the Saudis. I know also the Omanis aren't terribly pleased with the idea of attacking Iran, but I think at the end of the day, American credibility is on the line. So the president needs to consider that.
General Asthana, your assessment of something that was also pointed out by Ambassador Sikri, that this could turn into a chapter which the world does not want to endure at this point in time. Of course, and that point about oil and what will happen to crude oil prices across the world is something that everyone needs to worry about, including India. General Asthana, you're muted, sir.
Yeah, let me analyze it in a strategic form, giving out certain facts and figures. Firstly, any American strike which does not end into regime change is a waste of time, and cost benefit analysis wise it doesn't work out. So therefore, they have to first analyze whether their strike will lead to something or otherwise, because a strike has got many connotations, as have been brought out. Their neighbors are not interested to give their airspace, and also the oil prices, as you rightly mentioned, is going to rock everybody's interest, including America and India too. So that's one part of it. The second issue is that they have analyzed that if we were to, let's say, strike and replace by Pahlavi's support there is, as of today, 31%. There is a Netherlands-based institute which has done a survey, and with that survey, Reza Pahlavi is popular, but doesn't measure up to the popularity for a regime change. The other members who could be replaced by whom the regime could be replaced by, that is Salahi and Sikh, they are 6%, and Nobel laureate Mohammadi by 5%. So their popularity is far too low. There are three options for regime change. One is that the regime collapses and some anarchy comes out, and they impose Pahlavi as a king or as a monarchy rule. Now this monarchy rule is not liked by anybody there, and therefore it is thought that despite all the efforts, that may also go, there will be another protest, and he will have to leave. The second option is that if you can change the regime, because the regime is unpopular, there is no doubt. Khomeini has got only 20% support as of now. So therefore, if you change the regime and try and put a secular government, now that chances of that are very low, and therefore that part is they have worked out that an attack and finally maturing into a secular Iran is certainly, chances are not there, and therefore it doesn't make sense. So considering all this, the cost of attack, the strategic cost of this of attacking Iran has become far too high, and cost benefit wise it is not working out, and therefore President Trump is giving us statements like this, that okay, there is no killing. Now whether the killings have been postponed or the executions have been postponed or the executions are undercover, that is for everybody to imagine, because the fair or free and fair news is not coming from Iran. The Iranian part is blocked as far as news is concerned, and what we are hearing, what you and me are hearing, is the Western version of what is happening in Iran, and that is why you find these casualty figures ranging between 3,000 to 12,000 and things like that. So now if I have to look at, see, the current regime, if in power, suits India for two reasons. One is that they are naturally aligned. We have got some access to Chawar, we have got the investments there, and they are not with Pakistan on Kashmir issues and certain other things. Monarchy under, if it is replaced by monarchy, it doesn't suit India, because that suits Pakistan certainly. In both cases, regime change also doesn't suit China, because China has invested with the current regime fair amount of money, and fair amount of agreements are still there. So I don't think China is very keen for a regime change. So now if you see all around Iran, who is keen for a regime change? I don't think you find anybody else other than Americans themselves or other than President Trump. So I think he has rightly taken this line that now that the killings have stopped, and therefore the I think they had blocked the airspace also. Now that airspace has also been made open by Iran. So Iran is saying that it is under control. Uh, uh, because of the unpopularity of Khomeini, even if let's say hypothetically, and maybe it may be true that they are under control, even if they perhaps survive this particular magnitude of protest, maybe that something else will come up after some time later. But notwithstanding that, for Americans, the most important factor why for not attacking will be that if the attack doesn't result into regime change or something substantial, it has got no meaning. It has got all the disadvantages under the sun. So, in my opinion, unless there is a plan B for a regime change, which doesn't seem to be, and somebody to take on from Khomeini, I don't think USA is going to attack. Vineet.
Right. So, with Peter, a good point that has been put across by Journalist Asthana, that is this something which is going to guarantee a regime change in Iran, and who's going to benefit from this regime change? You know, I sense that Pakistan, you know, would be closely monitoring this situation. You know, they had their own problems with Iran as a neighbor. Sumit?
Yeah. Vineet, if you look at all the things happening, first of all, there are a lot of reports, and there's Afghan media who on record has said F-22s and F-35s have landed in Pakistan, including KC-135S, which is the mid-air tankers. So usually when they used B-2 bombers last time, KC-135s were all over the horizon. They're the mid-air tankers they use. Now, Pakistan has denied that, because I am always telling you, Mullah Munir is being cajoled and, lallo pacho kar rahe the. That was basically to use him against the Iran. Why doesn't he handle the Gwadar port and airport to Chinese who paid him the money to do that? Why has he kept that port for himself? Because I don't know how much America paid him, and his children are getting, and his wife are American citizens. They were living somewhere in Virginia. That is a known fact now. Now, Pakistan has denied this, but when Pakistan was a fight with Afghanistan, Afghans told them, give us an undertaking that your land will not be used against us. Pakistan said, we cannot give. Why you cannot do? We have an agreement with somebody. Then Americans came and said, yes, they have an agreement with us. We can use their land and their airspace for our land operations, for our drones and for our aircraft. So it is but natural. The America is not going to fight India. They're not going to fight Afghanistan. They had their peace there. They're not going to fight China right now. Who is the country wherein they will fight using Pakistani airspace and ground space or the runways? That is Iran only. So Donald Trump was grooming this Mullah Munir for that day. Second thing is, if you talk of what is happening, between Trump and whatever is happening, I think Trump had a big setback when all his so-called allied partners in Middle East literally tell him, okay, sir, thank you very much. We don't need you. He's in a state of shock. But I will tell you, Abraham Lincoln is moved to Iran. He's moving his combined war. He's doing his CVGs there. He must have pushed in his submarines. And after the Venezuela, he's riding cloud 9. The American military might is seen here. He will 101% attack. They will 101% take down Khamenei. They have to kill him. It doesn't matter how. They will kill Khamenei. They are trying to will Raza Pahlavi fit the bill or not? Otherwise, they will find some other solution which they might or might not have as on day, but they will try to put him there, because Trump has to prove a point to the world. And once you settle Iran, who will be of the guardian of the Middle East? The Israel will be given the job of the guardian of the Middle East. जो हिंदी में कहते हैं ना किलेदार, जमींदार. The zamindar or the kiledar will be Israel, who will manage the entire Middle East for them. And do you think Trump trusts MBS now so much? No, he doesn't. And after what Qatar and what all these people are doing to him, why did they have air bases in the first level? Why airbase pe kya Ramayan ka part hona tha? What do these people think? They can get trillions of dollars from America and from anybody, and when push comes to shove, that those din haath khade kar denge. Bhaiya, ye to Islam hai, Musliman pe attack kara, will not give you the airbase. What the hell is this? And what do you expect when Christians or any other country attacks? You want America and the NATO to come and fight for Tayyip Erdogan. But when America wants to attack a Muslim country, so no NATO, nothing. First is Islam and Islami Biradari. Tera mera kya rishta, la ilaha illallah. That is what they're telling you loud and clear. So the point here is that do you want to live with this? Because if you, and how will you forget, how don't you factor in Benjamin Netanyahu? Benjamin Netanyahu is on clear saying Iran is my existential threat. If he doesn't eliminate Khamenei this time or get a government which is at least mild or neutral, he will never ever have his chance in his lifetime. Even if Donald Trump wants to back down, do you think Netanyahu will let him back down? Do you think Israel will have no second plan? The strategic dissonance which is created right now is exactly what Trump did before attacking Fordo. So Tulsi Gabbard saying there is no nuclear, whatever installation in Fordo. Trump says there is. They created this confusion. They had a meeting set up with the Iranian delegation 2 days after that. In the meanwhile, they sent their P2 bombers and did what they did.
Fair enough, Sumit. We've run out of time, but I appreciate the feedback and the pointers and the perspectives shared by all our guests. This is indeed a situation which is still evolving and a situation to monitor and watch out for. We'll be back.